Zod is a great antagonist and one of cinema's all-time great villains. The film version is so famous that his comic book version gets overshadowed. I thought I'd look at the very first issue he was ever introduced. Adventure Comics 283, The Phantom Superboy. This issue is actually really significant. It's also the first time the Phantom Zone was introduced into the Superman mythos. It's a Superboy adventure. During an archaeological dig, Lana Lang's father finds a Kryptonian box. What's in the box? It's a collection of the most dangerous weapons Krypton ever invented. There's even a note from Jor-El about how these must never be used. Clark immediately starts messing with the weapons. One of the weapons is a growth ray. He accidentally makes this lizard giant, and then the lizard drowns. And Clark is like, well, that's not my fault. I was attacking a research facility, but it was a wild animal. Yes, it was good that you saved people. I don't begrudge you for that, but it's like, dead, a victim of its own savage ferocity. No, Clark, it's dead because of you! Your biological father explicitly warned you, don't mess with these weapons, it'll go bad! And you did it anyways. Another thing in the box is a thought helmet, which flashes him back to a Kryptonian courtroom. This is where we get a lot of the lore dumping. We learn on Krypton that suspended animation is totally illegal. And the scientist right here, he did it. Part of this legal procedure is actually surprisingly complex. See, the state, and this is the planet of Krypton, is arguing that mad scientist Dr. Zandow willingly threw two people into suspended animation, knowing full well that he couldn't revive them. And the doctor argues, well, they knew the risks and they volunteered. That's like a sincere, complex philosophy of law thing. I'm not a lawyer, my dad was, but from my understanding, the general legal philosophy around all of this is that you actually can't consent to things like murder. Scientist is sentenced to 30 years in the Phantom Zone. This is the first time we see this happening, somebody getting sentenced to the Phantom Zone. There's another court case right after that one. Let me introduce you to General Zod. He looked a little different, didn't he? Apparently started off as a Bizarro ripoff. Clark even calls that out. For the next part to make sense, I need to set up a few plot points here. Before Clark turned on the thought helmet, he set up the Phantom Zone projector. We're going to need to talk about the lizard again. The lizard that Clark enlarged had a mate. The lizard's mate traps Superboy in the Phantom Zone. The mate does it out of vengeance. Look at this. That lizard is smiling! I always say this when I read old Superman comics. There is something beautifully and wonderfully unhinged about them, and I have loved every one I've read. The Phantom Zone projector turns Clark into a phantom, and just when it seems like this is his life now and he'll forever be stuck like this, who saves him? The noble electric typewriter. Truly the greatest hero in DC history. At the start of the comic, Clark gives Lana Lang a very long lecture about how great electrical typewriters are. It was quite dull, and although this seems like standard dork Clark behavior, Lana was actually quite interested in it and realized that Superman with his super brain might be able to control a electric typewriter. And he can. That power doesn't get brought up usually. Superman is faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, and can psychically control electric typewriters. And only electric typewriters. I say this every time I read school Superman stories, but I have to say it. I freaking love these. There is something just so amazing about them. A pure, unadulterated creativity that goes into every single panel. I can never predict what happens. This comic has a tiny lizard getting revenge on Clark Kent. That is amazing. This took me 2 days to film because my microphone here kept running out of power. It was very annoying. And constantly I would record a bunch of footage and half of it would be silent. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, standard deal, like and subscribe. But if you really enjoyed this video, I have a Kindle single coming out on April 27th. I've given the date wrong several times, but I'm pretty sure it's April 27th. It's called Jack and Alex versus the Space Mafia.